Coming up on Listen Lissa.
That one. This was maddening. Made me so... This drove me insane. You know how he would do the whole like flipperoo thing where like he actually didn't want to have to share his resources very much. So he would not take any of my resources that I was offering. At the same time, he convinces himself of things that aren't actually true. He would try to convince me as well. So he would often tell me things like,
what do you share with me? You don't give anything to me. What do you do for me?
and I would be like,
I legit will give you everything I have. I'm an anxious preoccupied. Hello, buddy.
I will give you everything I have. I will.
What do you need? Let's get it going. Do you want my PIN number? Would you like to get added to my bank account? It's done. Done. Your name is on it. What do you need? Would you like every jacket I own? Are you cold? Are you good? What do you need? What do you want? I'm here to serve you. You can have it.
And then he would be like,
Just doesn't seem like there's a lot of reciprocation here. So, I mean, if you want the things that you want, I mean, doesn't seem like you care that much about what I want.
I would just be like,
I quite literally obsess over what you want and would love to know what it is and like, why won't you take it? Hey, listen.
hey, welcome back. Welcome back to Listen Lissa. I am your host, Alyssa. Welcome. I don't know what this. Anywho, hi guys. I'm just gonna do the next attachment style of the insecure attachment styles. No big deal. The next one just happened to be in this order. I wasn't putting it off. Like I wasn't trying to procrastinate it or for any reason. I mean, I said they're all equal. They're all equal. They're all the same. They're all equal. There's nothing wrong with any of the attachment styles. It's not their fault. I'm going to be falling right into the flow. The same thing I've been doing. Like, I'm not even intimidated by even covering the one that I still have to do. I mean, I have one more. The last insecure attachment style that is on my list. And that is, can you guess?
What's going on here?
So they weren't in any order. Like, I just picked whatever. It was really chill. It was like, I just let it happen however it happened, and that's just how it happened. I'm not intimidated by it. I'm lying. I'm going to be going over dismissive avoidance today. I have to do dismissive avoidant today. No, I'm just as excited to do this one as all the others. So today I am tackling the dismissive avoidant. The dismissive avoidant. Dismissive avoidant.
Wow.
Dismissive avoidance. Okay, you guys are the ones. You guys are the ones. I have the hardest time relating. I have the hardest time understanding. You're the most opposite of my outlook on a lot of things. So the dismissive avoidant, this is the one that boggles my mind. But I am not going to let you down, DA. Let's get into it. I'm just giving you a hard time. So to be actually honest, I will say that not just dismissive avoidant, but in general, the avoidant attachment styles, they used to be pretty confusing to me. I would say that I largely, as an AP, before I ever started, really studying this type of stuff, a level of confusion hung over avoidant styles. I couldn't understand why, when you want to be with someone, the whole point of being in a relationship, that this is what we're talking about. We're talking about relationships, right? Like, we're talking about, like, two people being together. Why would you want to avoid them?
Are we supposed to hug? No. No need.
I guess it triggered a bit of a wound in me of all my life just not understanding why there was a dynamic in relationships that held an element of pushing someone away when you love them. It really brought me back to a lot of bad relationships I had been in, short-lived times when I had felt like I wasn't good enough, or someone had been so nice to me before, and then as soon as we're in a relationship, now all of a sudden I'm somehow your enemy, and somehow your burden, and somehow your annoyance, and it's like, why?
Why would somebody do this?
Today, I'm going to be going over the 10 key indicators that someone might have a dismissive avoidant attachment style. And I'm so serious about this. If there is a DA, if anybody is a DA that watches this video, please, for the love of Pete's sake. My mom says that. I don't know what that means.
For Pete's sake.
Who is Pete? Who is Pete? But please, if you are a dismissive avoidant, please, in my comments, please tell me that, because I feel honored. It's like the cool kid at school is like my friend. Dismissive avoidance on my channel? Watch my videos? What? Yo. I vow right now. I don't know. Wait, right hand on the Bible. I don't know. I vow right now, dismissive avoidant, I will do your video justice, and I will correctly represent the 10 key indicators of a dismissive avoidant attachment style. What do we know about dismissive avoidance? What is the buzz on the street? They're hyper independent. They're emotionally unavailable. They're averse to commitments, long term. They have no soul. Oh, no, someone said that. I didn't say that. Someone said that. I've heard that. I don't believe that. That's just, I said, what's the hype? What's the word on the street? What's the buzz? Sorry. So I will say that a lot of my life as an anxious preoccupied dismissive avoidance have been my Achilles heel. They've been the bane of my existence. They've been the guy who went to prom with the other girl. They've been that guy who never called me back after I thought we were really cool. This is what they are coined with. It is said that they have a difficult time with their emotions. So therefore, they are going to lean towards avoidance. And if you're an emotional person and you want to show all those living emotions that you have in your heart, which I am just like, sometimes I'm a ball of emotion at times, or I used to be, big time. So dismissive avoidant, they would be drawn to me at times. But, you know, once they got to know me, then, like, obviously they wanted to marry me and, like, keep me forever. But I was just like, I don't think so, because you're a dismissive avoidant. I'm not falling for that. No, they ghosted me. Yeah, they broke up with me. Ouch! 10 key indicators that someone is a dismissive avoidant attachment style. The first one, we probably all have heard it. Hyper independent. What is so bad about being independent? There's nothing bad. There's nothing bad about it. I mean, independent is a great quality to have, right? I mean, Destiny's Child. What was Destiny's Child song back in the early 2000s? All the women are independent. Throw your hands up at me, right? I mean, that was cool. That was a whole jam. I would roll into my high school with I would specifically put the windows down right when that song came on and like roll into the parking lot as if like I just ride around like that, turn it up a little bit, you know, like just like, I'm independent, you know, in my mom's Pathfinder. Yeah, I was really cool in high school. Independence was a good thing. It was taught to my generation to be a great thing. So who doesn't love someone that's independent? I mean, you don't have to take care of them. They're not going to be a burden to anybody. They can be depended on, right? Wrong. With the dismissive avoidant, there's a strong theme of, because they are so hyper independent, they also expect that others should be very independent as well. The insecure attachment styles, they don't necessarily have bad qualities or qualities that no one wants in any capacity. They will have certain qualities that are to the extreme or severely stunted. So the dismissive avoidant is no exception. They also have this. So independence in and of itself is not bad. In a relationship, there's definitely a level of independence that you should carry. You should still advocate for yourself. You should still have your own identity. You should still have certain things that are your responsibility to take care of within you and show up as your independent self, take care of your business, and also a level of dependence, because partners are partners. So they need to work together as well, like a happy medium, a balance, okay? So just as much as with the anxious preoccupied, which is all the way over here on the spectrum of dependence and independence, is leaning towards the stunted side of this element, where they are more codependent, where they want dependence to a level that is almost like the parent-child relationship. And they may not recognize this. They may get a little bit offended by even hearing that from their partner. But honestly, they are looking for such a dependency sometimes that is unhealthy. The dismissive avoidant is no better, okay? They're all the way over here, okay? This is hyper independence. Hyper independence. A level of independence that leaves no room for anyone else to join into your life, because dismissive avoidants have gone through their life accepting and learning to cope by being fully self-reliant, therefore convincing themselves and proving to themselves time and time again that they need no one else besides themselves. They don't need anybody. They can do anything they need. All of their needs, they can satisfy themselves. They don't need reassurance. They don't need connection. They're good to go. They're a one-man, one-woman show. They're just the whole everything. They can just do it all on their own, with or without you. You're just an added bonus. How do you think that makes people feel? That's not a relationship. So that is just as unhealthy. Literally, just as unhealthy. So I know in this category, I feel like the APs get a little bit more of the flack of like being needy and clingy and like too much. But like this hyper independence is also too much. That is too much. That is not healthy. It's not good for any relationship. Because while it's great to sustain yourself while you are single, where dismissive avoidants have some trouble is when they need to ease up a bit on that to join in with their partner and participate in a level of emotional connectedness and closeness in a relationship. And when their partner, comes to the point where they need something, they want to lean on their partner for emotional support. The DA is not interested in anything like that and has programmed themselves and built up these walls that are stone solid to never, ever, ever need that from anyone. They have built a life on making certain that they don't ever need that from anyone. So when someone comes into their realm and needs that from them, they're very upset about that. That is very offensive. Not only is it offensive, it's intrusive. And they kind of see independence as adulthood. And most of them found their independence prior to their adulthood even. So they had a level of this in their childhood as well. So they kind of look at other adults that want a healthy level of dependence, the right amount in a relationship, which I'll get to that. It's called interdependence. But people that even want that are just very frustrating for them because they're like,
I rely on me. I am myself. You are yourself. You existed before I ever met you. So why would you need to depend on me? Like, don't you have like your family or something for that? Like, don't you know how to be an adult? Like, maybe you need to grow up a little bit.
Sincerely, I promise you that's really how they think about it. Because I had my last relationship was with someone who, he was a fearful avoidant, but he was much more on the avoidance side. And so this is a line he literally verbatim would say to me oftentimes when I would be having a rough time. He would say to me,
"That is not how adults behave."
Literally mid-tears. I am mid-tears about something. I'm sharing my soul with him. And he would say,
I don't know. It's not how adults behave.
It's just like with all of the other things that come along with insecure attachment, there is a secure way to do this. Number 2, they're very judgmental on emotional expression and the outward display of heavy emotions. They will look down upon you like you are a peasant. If you have a good cry. There's never a good cry. If you're crying, you are a baby. Please stop crying, you're an adult. A really now kind of comical example of this, now that when I look back, it was not funny at all at the time. It was very sad and mean, but my previous relationship, he was way more anxious. I wish. He was way more avoidant. I was way more on my anxious side. And so he was like a lot like a dismissive avoidant in a lot of ways. So I remember a couple of times when I was crying, and literally, they will think sometimes that you crying is, they're not in touch with their emotions, okay? So, and they find them very problematic. They find them to be very uncomfortable. So when other people are having emotions in their presence, they feel a lot of pressure. This is the only shared experience that's actually occurring here, is that we all are doing this incorrectly. We all are looking at each other thinking that we all are feeling that way, and that's how we're assessing the situation and figuring out what that person's thinking and why they're doing what they're doing. And that's a shared experience because we're all kind of doing that to each other and to the world around us. However, we are not correctly, assuming how the other person's feeling a lot of the time. So because a dismissive avoidant would not be crying because they're upset, they would not outwardly display that, they can definitely make sure that does not happen. So they believe that all other people should be able to control that 100% as well.
Why are you crying right now? If you are crying, that is because you are allowing yourself to cry in front of me, and that is very rude of you, because I don't like that, and that makes me very uncomfortable.
And my ex literally said this to me. I just got done like bawling my eyes out. He really hurt my feelings. And at the end of it, you know, I'm thinking he's going to probably say something to make it better, right? He says,
I just want you to know that this can't keep going on. It's very uncomfortable for me when you cry like that. I don't know what you think I'm supposed to do when you do that.
I was like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that my sadness is uncomfortable for you. But I was sad, and tears came out, so I was like,
You know what? You're right. How dare I? How dare I inconvenience you with an emotional display of how you hurt my feelings when you said and did what you did and said? How dare I? I can promise you that will absolutely happen again. Lots of times.
oh, and it did. Oh, and it did. Yeah. He loved it. He loved me. He loved me. He was in love. They don't like that, okay? They really do not like big emotional displays. They do not like people that are trying to get them to show their emotions. They feel like it's baiting almost. Like if you're showing a lot of emotion in front of them, they're just like,
Why are you doing this to me? What is wrong with you?
Now here's a little interesting tidbit of why dismissive avoidants kind of get the bad rep of being very, cold and like maybe a little bit cruel at times, is because since they do not feel comfortable around emotional displays, like they are often very against being in a caregiver role. So if they have a sick relative, or if one of their friends is not feeling well, or their partner is not feeling well, they're going to seem like they're just very like not concerned and not helpful, because they don't want to see someone in their weakened state or something that makes them sad, because they don't want to touch that feeling. They're like, sad. No, get out of here. I don't want to feel that way. I'm going to feel better. I'm going to feel fine. I'm going to keep it even keel. They really appreciate stoicism. They really appreciate responsibility. They really appreciate like pushing through for what needs to get done. My ex used to say that a lot. He used to say,
Everybody has bad days and things go wrong, but you still have things to get done. You still have responsibilities. I still get everything done that I need to get done. You need to do the same.
I was like, okay, Dad, thanks for the pep talk. So if you have a DA partner, or you have a DA friend, or someone that's a DA, and you get sick or you get hurt or something like that, and they don't rush to be by your bedside, don't think it's because they don't love you or care about you. It's just because like they're very against you requiring an emotional display from them, and they also don't want to see you have an emotional display. The common emotions and core wounds that a dismissive avoidant will feel when in a relationship. These emotions, so we just said they hate emotions. They don't want to feel them. They don't want to show them. They're not in touch with them. They pretend not to have them. Their whole life has been a big old coping mechanism where they learned,
this is how I can survive this. This is how I thrive. I take these little pesky things inside of me that aren't even like tangible, and I don't even really have to worry about them. If I just say they're not there and I don't let them out, then they're not even important. They're not even here. So I don't want to have these emotions. These emotions are frowned upon. They have been frowned upon since my childhood. I was always put down for ever displaying them. They were weak. I was mocked or made fun of or criticized, which I hate, because I just want to impress. And I just want to be good at things. And if I just do really good things and I get responsibilities done and I stand out, then I get recognized and everything is okay in life. When these pesky little emotions come in, that's when everything goes to So we got to keep those out. I don't feel those. So they started believing that they do not feel emotions. They're not able to express emotions. They're not going to engage in that at all. So when we say common emotions that DAs feel, then if a DA is watching this, they might hear some of these and go,
Yeah, right. She doesn't know what she's talking about. But just remember that these are emotions that are being suppressed. So the DA already has a logical explanation for any of these feelings that are coming in, and they might not even coin it this emotion when it does. Keep that in mind. Another thing that I've come across the insecure attachment styles and how different they are is that a lot of the really common core wounds, they are the same across the board. I am not enough and I am going to be abandoned. Those are their fears, their core wounds. All three. Fearful avoidant, dismissive avoidant, and anxious preoccupied. Anxious preoccupied, we'd be like, yeah, duh, we know. Thank you. You don't want to be abandoned. Come here, I will hug you. Aww. It's obvious. Fearful avoidant, we can understand because we're like,
Oh, they have an anxious side.
dismissive avoidant. I will be abandoned wound. Where is it? You're literally trying to get away. You're trying to run away. You're not being abandoned. You fled. You abandoned. What do you mean? You can't be abandoned when you're the abandoner. I don't get it. Well, I do get it because I studied it. Another word to think about is preemptive strike. One of the avoidant's favorite coping strategies, both types of avoidant, is to preemptively strike. So whatever they are afraid of is going to happen, whatever they have their deepest wound about, as soon as they feel a little bit dysregulated or they're feeling, too vulnerable, they're feeling like someone's infringing on their space, they're being required to have more emotions than they're comfortable with. It's starting to get real in the relationship. It's starting to get close. It's starting to require a level of boop, 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 floofiness. They're like,
floofiness. I'm not doing that.
So they then just will tend to abandon the relationship, preemptive strike. So I'm never going to let you abandon me. I'm going to abandon you first. Ha! Got him first. Ha! Being that I have now experienced being a fearful avoidant, here's an example of how I engaged in the preemptive strike. My partner began to leave for work in the morning without speaking to me, without looking at me, without saying goodbye. At first, it really upset me. And I asked, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Why are you leaving? Why aren't you saying goodbye to me? And he just got dismissed. And I talked to him and I thought he got it. And then the next morning, again, it happened. Off and on, it happened frequently, actually, no matter how many times I brought it up. So I got to the point that I was so hurt in this and that I wanted this so badly to stop happening to me that I decided I would get up before he ever woke up in the morning, and I would go into the bathroom, and then I would be in the bathroom. So therefore, he wouldn't have the opportunity to reject me or not say goodbye to me, ignore me. He wouldn't have the opportunity to make me feel those feelings because I already preemptively rejected him by not being available to him. And I think that's probably one of the most avoidant things I've ever done in my life. This is the first experience I ever remember having where I went avoidant instead of anxious, and it made me feel safe, but it made me feel cold. What is the only reason that someone would preemptively strike and abandon someone that they still actually like and have feelings for? Fear. Only reason is fear. That's the only reason. They are afraid of it because it is their core limiting belief. I will be abandoned. Some common feelings that they feel are frustration, irritability, restlessness, disrespected. If you're coming around with your emotional dysregulation all the time, you're disrespecting the GA majorly. You're coming in their space where they have all their stuff and they want to be left alone. You're being very disrespectful. Get out. Infringed upon. Same. Smothered. Here's one. This is crazy. Anxious. They might feel anxious, but they feel anxious. They actually feel a lot of anxiety. They feel anxiety about failure. They feel anxiety about success and achievements. They feel really pressured with that. So that gives them some anxiety. And especially if they're with a semi-anxious partner, which they often are, they have a constant low level of anxiety. Here's another kicker. When you chronically push away your emotions and refuse to express them, just essentially commit a heinous act on yourself and a form of self-abandonment, because humans are meant to feel their emotions and express them. We have them for a reason. They're not just like these little annoying things that are just like,
Oh, that's unfortunate that we have those.
no, they have a purpose, just like anything else that is happening to you naturally. If something's hurting on your body, you probably need to pay attention to what's going on there because you might have a broken arm. Yeah, so like if your feelings are hurt, you might have a broken heart and you need to heal it. Okay. So they will feel anxiety and stress because they push all that away. It's like a constant state of living in learned helplessness and negative beliefs about emotions, and they're stifled. And everything's filtered through fear. So they're just like coming off as like sometimes like these like robotic people that are just like, I have no feelings. So they feel quite a lot of shame and guilt over being misunderstood and being often cast as the bad guy, the guy that didn't care. I'm sorry. DAs can very much be women as well. I'm just saying the guy like a gender neutral term. Like,
Hey, guy.
the guy. It's anybody. Everybody's a guy. I'm a guy. In that scenario I'm going to move on. Hidden insecurity. This one is interesting as well. So DAs actually on a very hidden level and pushed down way down, like almost to where they don't know it anymore. They are very insecure. They're insecure about life and about themselves, and they're afraid of failure. They're afraid of coming up short. They're afraid of anybody thinking that they didn't try hard enough or they didn't achieve enough. They're afraid of being inadequate, unworthy, not enough. I'm going to run down their core wounds real quick because I said a lot of them already. So I am a failure. I am controlled, helpless, powerless, or trapped. Same with the FA. So avoidant. I am not enough. I am weak. I will be abandoned. But they have built that, like I said, into positive associations to being alone so that they think that they like love to be alone and they like are totally good with their space and they don't need anybody. That's why they're hyper independent, because they are afraid of abandonment. If you know a dismissive avoidant, don't tell them I told you this. They're not going to like you saying that. Do not pull up their insecurities and their fears in their face, because they're going to get really, really, really dysregulated and they're going to be like,
Get away from me. You're doing the thing I don't like. That thing you do where you want to talk about things that are happening inside of me that I have learned really well how to ignore, and I'll get out of here. This is not your closet to unpack.
so probably don't do that, okay? They have to want to go on that journey themselves. Avoidant, like they are about that. So I am alone. So they isolate themselves. They want independence, hyper independence. They're very self-reliant. They think everybody else should be. And then they have the core wound, I am alone. And it's the cause and the effect. The cause and the effect. The cause and the effect. The chicken and the egg. I don't know which one causes what. They think they're alone. They're afraid of being alone. They have a wound of being alone, and then they make themselves alone. Preemptive strike, or I don't know, cart before the horse, horse before the cart, chicken, egg, old McDonald had a farm. Dismissive avoidant. I am misunderstood. I am defective. They think sometimes when they're maybe reflecting on this that there's something wrong with them. Why can't they just be normal? Why can't they just have emotion? They do long for closeness. They do long for that emotional connection, but encased with the learned helplessness and the filter of fear. And it's kind of like when you know something is really bad for you. Maybe an addict knows that their drug of choice is really bad for them and they're recovering and they've been in recovery for a long time, but they're always going to still want that. I don't want to compare it to a drug. Wait, that's the wrong direction. Emotions are a good thing, okay? So it's not like giving into addiction. What would it be like? Let's say, I guess to them it would be like that. Yeah, I guess that works. Okay, so like if they've convinced themselves that they can't have it and it's bad, and then they will very much still oftentimes, fantasize about it and think about how nice it would be to have that, and think about, in a perfect world where that could happen and all the bad stuff wouldn't come with it, but in their mind, all that bad stuff will come with it, and so they will not give in to that. But do they long for it? Yes. Do they wish maybe that they weren't so defective and could have that without it hurting them? Yes, very much so. This is the internal conflict that they are pretending is not happening and like really wishing would go away and like stay down and shut up. And I am stupid and I am unseen or unheard. That one. This was maddening. Made me so. This drove me insane. You know how he would do the whole like flipperoo thing where like he actually didn't want to have to share his resources very much. So he would not take any of my resources that I was offering. At the same time, I guess the way he convinces himself to carry on this very stoic display and having it all together type thing all the time. The way he does that is he convinces himself of things that aren't actually true. So he would try to convince me as well. So he would often tell me things like,
what do you share with me? You don't give anything to me. What do you do for me?
and I would be like,
I legit will give you everything I have. I'm an anxious preoccupied. Hello, buddy. I will give you everything I have. I will. Would you like? What do you need? Let's get it going. Do you want my PIN number? Would you like to get added to my bank account? It's done. Done. Your name is on it. What do you need? Would you like every jacket I own? Are you cold? Are you good? What do you need? What do you want? I'm here to serve you. You can have it.
and then he would be like,
Just doesn't seem like there's a lot of reciprocation here. So, I mean, if you want the things that you want, I mean, doesn't seem like you care that much about what I want.
I would just be like,
I quite literally obsess over what you want and would love to know what it is and like, why won't you take it? And
he would just insist. It was like a loop that was running in his brain, and it really didn't matter what I showed him or said to him. It was so programmed in there that I'm telling you, tried hard to infiltrate it. It was impenetrable. He wasn't even full-blown dismissive avoidant. He was a fearful avoidant. So he was heavily dismissive, though. Number five is, no, wait. Melissa, we're not going to do that this time. We're going to know how to count, okay? Number 4, thank you. Number 4, they are very highly sensitive to criticism. I kind of touched on this already, but they do not like to be criticized. And so if you're gonna interact with a DA, if you're gonna have a DA in your life, or even any level of avoidant side to your partner or somebody that you love, try your best not to criticize them, not to be critical, not to be very negative towards them or their actions, or assume things about what they're doing or what their intentions are, because that's just like a good rule of thumb in general. Don't do that, because it's going to get you nowhere. First of all, it's not going to be responded to well. They're going to shut down. They're going to push you away. They're going to find every way to get away from you because they don't want to hear that. They do not like to be criticized. As children, they were usually very heavily criticized. They were really pressured to always make the mark and always be the best of the best. You have to stand out. You have to do everything really good. They were like really pressured to get achievements and be above average, and they would be praised for that. That was their shining moment. So they knew, I just have to be perfect. I have to stand out. I have to be above everyone else. So that was quite literally their survival. That was their MO to survive, was to be really good at what they do. And so when they are being criticized, they're like,
But look at this. Look at this thing that I did. I've been working so hard. Unbelievable. I do way more than her anyway. Who is she even to look down upon me and say something about what I do?
they are so adamant about being in line and taking care of things and getting things done and being on top of it. They're really hard on themselves, really hard on themselves. So when you criticize them too, it's like double voices. Like they have like their caregiver who criticized them in their head. They have all the pressure of the world on them. They have themselves in there just like yap, yap, yapping away at like,
Be better. You're not doing enough.
so they don't want to hear that from anyone. The unfortunate side effect behavior that comes from this is that oftentimes they believe they are being criticized where it's not happening. This also happened a lot in my relationship. Who knew that asking, how was your day? Or what's wrong? You seem upset. Or what time will you be off work today? Or what would you like to have for dinner? Or when can we go do something fun together? I miss you. I want to spend some time with you. Who knew that any of these plethora of very run-of-the-mill statements could be interpreted as criticism and be equivalent to you pulling out a target and sticking it on your back for them to then fire back at you for the perceived shots you just fired at them? Because how freaking dare you ever question what they are doing? How dare you? Yeah, this would happen a lot. This would happen a lot. Like, I'm sorry, like daily, this would happen multiple times a day. It actually became nearly the constant state of our relationship and our interactions. It was wildly upsetting to me. I had never experienced someone who does that. So I was just confused. There were many days I spent just pondering Am I just being very lacking in self-awareness? Just being very sensitive? Am I just not understanding how to deal with a relationship that is more adult than my previous ones? Or is this person a bit rigid, projecting a bit, a bit big projections? Big ones. Huge. Make them pretty ones. Huge. Yeah, big mistake.
Big.
Huge.
I have to go shopping now.
I don't know. If you're trying to work through things with a dismissive avoidant, you're trying to work out these issues. You're trying to learn how to work well with them and try to avoid criticism. Try to avoid getting extremely offended and confused when they still think you're criticizing them. Just be patient. They won't likely tell you that this is triggering their I am a failure wound. Because they likely won't know that. We don't tend to know when our core wounds are being agitated for the most part until we kind of come to the conclusion we need to heal from our childhood trauma. So more than likely they would say something like,
You don't appreciate everything I do for you.
if you have a dismissive avoidant, they're saying things of that nature, it's probably because you are pestering away at their I am a failure wound, and you should probably take a few steps back and reevaluate. Number 5, dismissive avoidants value their privacy and are very protective of their material belongings. If you get into a relationship with a dismissive avoidant, and you'll notice sometimes if you ask them very run-of-the-mill questions, at times they seem very offended. Hey,
What up?
how are you?
It was good. Just interrupted.
Okay. My bad. Well, what'd you do today?
What? What did I do today? That's pretty nosy of you.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not trying to be nosy. Just,
Seems like
that's
it.
a common question people ask in conversations. I'm just trying to
It's
be...
not.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I didn't ask you that.
Forget it. Okay. Well, what are you doing right now?
Bro, mind your business.
I'm not trying to get into your business. Yo, it's just a conversation.
Your questions are
I'm-
intrusive.
No, I'm not intrusive.
Nope.
If you've ever lived with them, like if you've ever had a roommate that's a DA, or if you've ever been in a relationship with a DA, you'll notice that they are very like, what's mine is mine. They'll share with you if they decide to share with you. But if you try to take some of what they have, even if it's the smallest thing, don't take one of their Q-tips.
When is the last time you bought Q-tips? Give me my Q-tip back. Like, how? These ain't free.
I remember when we first moved in together, he had bought the bottle of laundry detergent when we had moved in there. So like, no big deal. I got the next one. Our laundry room was downstairs. We were roommates with members of his family. I just remember he was like,
Don't leave the laundry detergent in the laundry room when you're done, when you're not washing the clothes, because I don't want other people that aren't purchasing it to use it, because they might if they see it there.
and I was like,
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
not thinking it was really on a level of priority of importance. Like, I had every intention of remembering to do what he said and honoring that. When I left it downstairs and I was already upstairs doing stuff, I didn't really go back down there. And I was just like,
Well, I bought it anyway. If somebody uses it, I don't mind.
me being anxious, preoccupied, I'm a people pleaser. I want to share with everyone because I want them to be like,
Thank you. Thank you. You're such a good person. Thank you for letting me use your laundry detergent.
I'm like dying to let them use my laundry detergent. And like, he's just like,
Do not leave it outside of the door.
and I'm like,
But, I want to people please. How am I going to make them like me?
so I couldn't remember to do it. I kept leaving it downstairs. And so he got really mad. And for the rest of our relationship, he never shared laundry detergent with me ever again. I'm not kidding. And it was my laundry detergent. It was mine. I bought it. If those things run out, they just feel everything's on their shoulders. Everything is their responsibility. they worry about other people causing them a dilemma because everything's on their shoulders. So that will then become their dilemma. Someone else's dilemma becoming their dilemma, or someone else doing something dumb or not being responsible about something and that becoming their burden is like their nightmare. That's like horror movie for them in real life, and they hate it. We weren't allowed to share laundry detergent anymore. I was upset. I was like,
I want to share with you. I want to be your partner.
and he was like,
Buy your own.
I was like,
Well, I'll buy some and you can have some of mine.
he was like,
I don't want any of you. I don't need any of yours.
I was like,
Okay.
I do just want to say I am making light of that situation right now because it's in my past and I'm moving forward from it. But in case someone who's watching is being currently treated like that in a relationship and is feeling very hurt by it, I am making it funny. It was not funny. It wasn't funny. It hurt my feelings a lot. I was very upset. He went on to replicate this with nearly everything. So groceries. He would eat my food when I cooked for him, when it was that way, but he refused to, even though I told him multiple times, I stock up the cabinets, I keep food in the house. I'm even observing what you like to eat, and I'm making sure to get some of that type of thing. Please, what's mine is yours. It's literally free reign. What's mine is yours. I said this to him verbatim, eye to eyeball, many times. And it's just so funny now looking back, but it was not funny then. He absolutely refused. And it's this, I don't know, it's again, it's a coping mechanism because it's like, I can't agree and give in and take from you because then you might want to take from me as well. And we can't be doing that. You're responsible for you. I'm responsible for me. Hyper independence. They don't think that there should be any need for any dependency. And that's just a little bit too far to that independent side. It should be interdependence. We can share. We can depend on each other. Number 6, they are typically very successful in their career and their finances. Doing great, excelling, way exceeding the mark. Every attachment style has some positives that come from their attachment style, just like there's some challenges that are posed. So one of the dismissive avoidants' really key positives is that they are really good with their finances. They're great about being responsible. They tend to excel in their career. They do really good with stuff like that. They work really well under pressure. And their workplace is somewhere that they tend to, when they do feel like they need to escape from something that is becoming a little too emotional, they will put all their focus into their work and really give it their all. That's obviously why you see them excel in their career, because anything you pour your heart into and you pour all your effort into, you watch it rise to the top of your successes. They tend to do really well at applying themselves in that aspect. This is where they feel really strong. They feel like they understand how it works. They understand the goal. They understand what they need to do to reach the goal. They're very successful here. They will tend to have, like I said, more money, more assets. They will tend to be a little further along in life as far as their goals that are materialistic. They really like the structure of everything just being so logical. You go there, you put in your work, you have expectations that you're supposed to meet. They don't involve your emotions at all. Work is not a place where your emotions are very welcome. So that's exactly where they would love to be. They love to thrive there. You can actually develop some semi-bonds with people, with your coworkers, with your other employees, that you can get that sense of a connection and social time that, again, DAs crave just as much as everybody else, but then you don't have that added expectation of now we have to get close. Now we have to be emotional. Now we have to bond. Now there has to be connectedness. What is going to come up? Are you going to want to cry? I don't want to see you cry. Get your cries away from. I'm tired of people crying. Why do people always crying? It's like I feel like the world to the DA is like a landmine of like just people crying. They're just like everywhere they turn. They're like, no! Another crier. It's like Walking Dead, but people are crying instead of zombies. I'm so weird. Don't steal my idea. It's gonna be a movie. Yeah, this is the environment where they're not defective. This is the environment where like their natural way of being is welcomed and actually really celebrated and focused on as a positive quality. All their positive qualities are very celebrated here. That brings me to number 7. which is a kind of a big difference between the fearful avoidant and the dismissive avoidant, is dismissive avoidants sometimes have a big aversion to like long-term commitment. So they may have tried it a few times, or they just may have shied away from it completely. They may just like kind of be in situationships. They're the situationship guy, the situationship lady, you know, like I just like a situationship. I got my boo thing, you know, they never have a boyfriend. They have a boo thing, you know, whatever. Do people say boo thing anymore? What's that guy? You're my boo thing. I can't get enough. I love your stuff. Something like the my boo thing. I don't know. Another thing that they will do in relationships, fairly common, is sometimes they will love a long distance relationship. Perfect. You live in another country? I'm like, yes, sign me up. So I can have a connection, you know, I can have that relationship. I can check that box, you know, with my, you know, white picket fence and the house I need to get and the 2.5 children and the dog and the perfect career and the perfect car and very successful business woman, you know. I just, you know, need my man who lives in Istanbul. I don't know. Perfect. I see him once a year. And that's almost one time too many. Okay? And he's calling a lot too. So I'm fully immersed in that relationship, you know? So like that works for them. As them having an aversion to long-term commitments, sometimes they are cheater pumpkin eaters. They can be big cheaters at times. Big old fat cheaters. Okay? Because they tend to sabotage intimacy. If they're feeling really, really like, oh my gosh, I need to, this doesn't feel right. They want to create distance. They can do this in a bunch of different ways. I could write a book about the many ways that my ex created distance for no apparent reason. But I will say, you know, the reason was internal. Something happened and something triggered that wound or that fear and constantly employing tactics of distancing. Luckily, I was with someone who was not a cheater, to my knowledge. I'm pretty positive that that's not a behavior that he was one to engage in. But dismissive avoidants do have a reputation of engaging in cheating. Now, another thing, if they don't go as far as cheating, they might do to distance is triangulation or like flirting, like heavy flirting. Basically, so sometimes at home, they might not be showing you a lot of attention and they might be like pretty much emotionally neglecting you. They emotionally neglect themselves. Sorry about that echo. That was on for a while. They emotionally neglect themselves and you're certainly not on the ranks above them in superiority of, or who's, you know, getting the attention emotionally. No one is. So what they will do though, if they're trying to distance, you keep asking for that, they're going to do things like those little things that you're always wanting so badly from them, like kind smile when they come home from work or something. Look somewhat like you want to see me and like you're happy. But when they see their coworker that stops by, they're someone you've never met before. It's like they're just like giddy and they're like,
Teresa!
And they're just their charismatic self that you met in the beginning again. And you're just like, that's like a blow. It's like a thud, like deep in your heart vessel. You're just like, because you want that so bad.
Oh my God, if he would look at me and smile. I haven't seen a tooth of his in months. I forgot if he had teeth or not.
So why do they have an aversion to long-term relationships? Because they pose a level of a threat that eventually they're going to be required to show emotions and they're going to be required to be vulnerable, and as they feel that ever present, as they feel that ever increasingly coming closer, they're like, I got to get out of here. It doesn't feel right to them. It feels like walking into a minefield. Sometimes they can go about ending a relationship in a really dismissive and not direct way, and that can hurt as well. They're less likely to be upfront with you. So, because they want to avoid your emotions. So DAs and dating stage are often ghosters. DAs in the later long-term stages are often the partner that I'll just neglect you and treat you completely terribly, or like you aren't even around. I'll completely neglect you and secretly hope that you will leave me. So it's also called a reverse discard. And that is again, a narcissistic term. I'm not saying that DAs are narcissists. It's just a term that means that you dump the relationship, but without doing that action. You just treat someone way below their worth until they leave you, so that they are the ones that left the relationship instead of you having to initiate the breakup, so that you don't feel like the bad guy. So you don't have to deal with their emotions, because it's not your fault. Because then you can say, you broke up with me. I don't know why you're being emotional, but I can't take it right now. Without realizing that sometimes they're not very aware that it's their inability to engage in a healthy way that causes their partner to be so emotional and is hurting their partner's feelings and is causing their partner to be so up in arms, and actually sometimes can get really, depending on how secure their partner is or what they're going through at the time, these types of things can be very, very impactful. They can affect your health. They can affect, especially in AP, an anxious preoccupied, they can affect their whole life. They can feel like their whole life is crumbling down. They can, go through a really hard time. So it's, they tend to see that as weakness again. They tend to see that as something's wrong with this person. There's no reason to be acting this way. And they just don't realize that that is quite an unfortunate way to look at it when it is their unhealthy level of dealing with emotions that is creating that unhealthy level of emotions as well. And just because the two are on opposite ends, neither one is more or less healthy than the other. Those are the way the DA lacks expression of their emotions is not healthy at all. And the way that they treat their partners for having emotions is not healthy at all. And it does not facilitate a good relationship and does not facilitate long-term happiness. They're the least likely to be aware of their attachment style. They're the least likely to be interested in attachment theory. They're the least likely to be interested in the journey to healing it, and least likely to see it as an impactful enough issue in their life that is something that they should work on healing. They will more often take the perspective of, nothing wrong with this. This is actually good quality. I'm glad that I'm not being too emotional. I'm glad that I'm not depending on anybody. I'm glad that I'm independent. I'm succeeding in my career. I'm not unhappy. I don't need anything. Because of this, sometimes even if their partner is very, very, very unhappy and wants them to work on it so that they can be happy enough to stay in the relationship, the DA may unfortunately decide that they don't need the relationship. And that really hurts. Painful. Owie. When I found out about attachment theory at the beginning of my relationship, things weren't so terrible at that time, but I was really interested in it. But when things had gone really downhill and I was alone a lot more of the time, I was feeling really left out a lot more of the time. So I had a lot more time on my hands and I explored it a lot more deeply during that phase. And I came to the realization that this is the answer. This is the thing that could help and heal everything. So all I have to do is show this to my partner and then we can work on it together. It would be like a bonding thing. We could do it together. We could figure it out and get through this, basically. So unfortunately, my partner didn't want to participate in that. So this is what will happen a lot with avoidant attachment side of things. They can see the problem, but they tend to believe that it is coming from external places. So they're like,
why are you constantly bugging me with this problem of yours?
It seems just like a burdensome thing to them. They don't realize that what you're saying is that they are a huge part of the problem. They're just like,
I can't be burdened with your problems. You need to be independent. You're supposed to rely on yourself. You're an adult.
And you're just like,
Yes, and so are you, and you're literally the problem.
I'm just kidding. They're not the whole problem. Big portion of it, but they're not. I'm not mad at avoidance. I'm part of the club now. You guys let me in. Number 8. Dismissive avoidants have a tendency to show up in relationships with emotional coldness and an aloofness. So aloofness, you will probably notice right away when you meet a dismissive avoidant. They're not necessarily not social, but they are going to have a certain disconnection about them, especially if you're somebody that picks up a lot on on people's moods and energies and stuff like that. You're going to kind of notice a standoffishness with the dismissive avoidant. Somebody that they may be chatting a lot, but not about much of anything deep. You know, they're not the one that wants to sit up with you and talk at 3 a.m. about life's purposes. They won't necessarily lack in charisma, and it's not to say that you can't have chemistry with them, because you absolutely can. There's somebody for everyone, and they can be very charming. They can be definitely even sometimes in the beginning of a relationship where they are very attracted to someone, when it hasn't begun to get vulnerable or serious yet, they can seem pretty interested and be even very affectionate, but it will be a very short matter of time before that avoidant side starts to come out, if they have any level of emotion towards you as a partner. If they start to feel something, they will immediately begin to employ tactics to push you away and keep you at a distance, because that is where everyone needs to stay with the dismissive avoidant. When they get really worn out in emotionality, like when they're in a long-term relationship sometimes and there's a lot of volatility in it, like if they're with a fearful avoidant or they're with an anxious preoccupied, and they're just like constantly having to deal with the emotions of that person, and that's just not something that they are comfortable with, they will shut down and they will become very aloof. You almost feel like it's like a dead pan. It's like is anybody in there? It's almost like the person that you know is not inside that body, is not behind those eyes, it's just gone. Will not engage. Just very heavily into work, but not focused in the present moment, not able to carry on a conversation other than the surface level. It's just there. The lights are on, nobody's home, you know? And that can feel really cold and hard to deal with. Really like cute little quirk about dismissive avoidance is that a lot of them really value having like a really close pet that they really love a lot. So they might not be like really lovey-dovey with the pet all the time, but behind closed doors, they probably like get in there and cuddle with their pet and like love them dearly. That's like their love bug. That's the one that they can do that with, because their pet cannot hurt them or like require an emotional display from them. And a pet is like it's an understood burden. It's like you signed up for it. So they signed up for it, so they understand what comes with it, and they're not like angry at it for being a burden. Now with their children, sometimes they can be pretty emotionally distant, even with their own children. They're not trying to be. It's not like they don't love their children or they're not good parents to their children, but they do lack a bit in the emotional support realm and the emotional maturity realm, and kind of teaching a child how to explore their emotions properly and how to deal with their emotions properly, because they certainly don't have that to offer, because they haven't learned that yet, even as adults. So sometimes children can feel a bit invalidated, can feel like their emotions aren't being seen, aren't being heard. They can develop the dismissive avoidant attachment style from their dismissive avoidant parent, because their dismissive avoidant parent is likely to pass down ideals that emotional displays are weak, be very judgmental, be very critical, and celebrate only successes and things like that are tangible. All right, number 9. Number 9 is, this one's really cool. This is like a little unique fun fact. Dismissive avoidance in their free time, the things that they tend to like to escape into, because they like their creature comforts, which is like they like their like little worlds that they creep into. Like sometimes it can be unhealthy, such as addictions. Like they could be into smoking, drinking, drug, things like that. But also creature comforts could be like television shows. They may like to binge watch. They may really like to play video games. They may really like to watch sports, or something that they can get enthralled in and do like on their own and completely put all of their focus into, and have a reason to not be bothered and have a reason to not be distracted. So like people don't bother them because they need their space and they need their solitude. That as logical and pragmatic as the dismissive avoidant can be, they actually tend to lean in heavily towards fantastical types of themes in their spare time. So they really enjoy like fantasy type video games or computer games. Rather than watching like documentaries, they might be a lot more into watching fictional series on like Netflix or whatever it is. They're not going to be as into like podcasts. They're going to be like way more into things with a storyline that's like really fantastical, like a dreamed up idea, something that wouldn't necessarily happen in their real world. They escape through that. For number 10, I'm going to give you the top factor that contributes to dismissive avoidance having low success rates in their romantic relationships. And I'm going to tell you why this is. So there's someone named John Gottman. He was the writer of the four killers of a relationship or whatever it was. I don't know. There's like, I'll look it up. I forget. But John Gottman, he's somebody really important. I'm going to get that for you. Amongst huge studies that they did on couples and intimacy and couples that last long times and report being very happy for a long term in their relationships, studied in like a wide range of couples like this, what was making them the most successful, and then also studied relationships that were failing and what was the common group of things that was causing them to fail. He found in these studies that one of the key indicators that a relationship ends up being successful and enjoyable and meaningful to people involved is how often and how well each partner's bids for connection are responded to. So if you don't know what a bid for connection is, it's just something where you kind of throw something out there to your partner to engage them in any way. So this could be anything low level from,
Hey, did you see that they're serving bagels and coffee over at Purple Bagel on Friday morning? That seems like fun. Did you see that? What do you think about that?
it could be something like that, or all the way up to like,
Hey, I really miss how we used to go for walks on the beach. We haven't done that in a while. Do you still like the beach?
things like that. And so it's just trying to bring up a topic that your partner is interested in or that you want to talk about, and trying to get your partner to engage with you and respond to you so that you can feel a bit of connection. You can feel some connection at that moment. Oftentimes in relationships where the two partners have become quite a bit disconnected, they will report that their bids for connection go ignored. So often they will reach out, they will throw out a bid for connection, and their partner will completely just miss it. They will miss it, they will interrupt them, they will change that subject, or they will just be too busy to engage. And John Gottman was saying that this was the key top indicator for whether couples will have a long relationship and one that is fulfilling and enjoyable while you're in it. So bids for connection are very important, and why this matters to dismissive avoidant attachment style, because dismissive avoidants often completely miss bids for connection. They completely do not recognize them. They have probably, if you said something like bid for connection to them, they would probably be like, oh, what is that? So they probably don't know what a bid for connection is, and they're definitely missing them. Not definitely, but probably. So that's a problem, So when that's the key indicator of longevity and enjoyment in a relationship, and this attachment style is oftentimes missing those frequently, chances are they're not having long-lasting, fulfilling relationships very often. That's all 10. Thank you so much for completing the video. I am going to be getting into now, after this video, now that it is concluded, I'm going to be getting into how you go about healing these things. So we've gotten through all three insecure attached styles, and the background on attachment theory. And I might give a few more episodes to just give a little more foundation to the entire theory. But eventually I'm going to move into how you fix this. So I have a lot of valuable information to share with you on that. It is a deep process though. And I would encourage, if you are very eager to get started on your journey, I do recommend Thais Gibson Personal Development School. It's totally affordable, and there's so much information there. It's so deeply developed. She has put her life's work into that, and she's amazing. And it really walks you through step by step, effectual ways that are proven to work on healing these things. You can actually achieve real healing that is noticeable, tangible, and measurable, and just really get you on your journey to a more fulfilled life and a more fulfilled relationship that you deserve. Okay? Thank you so much for watching my videos again. I love you. I love you. Thank you, Dismissive Avoidance, if you commented, and I will see you guys next time. Okay? Don't forget to like, subscribe. Mwah. Thank you. Bye. Very uncommon that dismissive avoidant is going to find dismissive avoidant and pair up together. Although when they do, sometimes they're largely comfortable with completely no closeness and just avoiding their feelings for the rest of their lives, and they kind of just cohabitate every time. What the
Cohabitate.
I had it right the first time. Okay. Why did that sound so wrong? Cohabitate. There's a similar word that I always say wrong. I just like put an extra syllable in there for no reason. Oh, jeez. Cohabitate. They just kind of cohabitate together for, you know, forever, not speaking and not sharing their emotions and inner worlds. They just, I think every day they wake up and they just talk about the weather. And then they go play their fantasy video game by themselves and they go to bed in their own bedroom. I'm just joking. I was just... Hey, I found this book. I found this book my dad had. My dad had bad. Okay. I'm gonna cover this word. Spit happens. So get over it. I'm not kidding. When I saw this book, I was like, perfect. This literally looks like it was written by a dismissive avoidant. It actually is a book of a bunch of life quotes. Very cute. I mean, Reba McEntire, okay? To succeed in life, you need 3 things: a wishbone, a backbone, and a funny bone. I think that's how she sounds. So, yeah, but dismissive avoidance, man, that works for them. You're my boo thing, can't get enough, I love your stuff, can't get enough, I love your stuff. You get what you want 'cause you're my boo thing. And when your friends ask, I'm not your man, just the closest thing that you have to a boo thing. Remember?